All right, good afternoon. Thank you so much, Steve, for getting us started on our webinar process today. Welcome to everybody who has joined us online. We want to thank you so much for taking the hour out of your day or so to come and learn some more about AmeriCorps NCCC. We are having some technical fun today, so we're going to be trying to put this webinar together the best that we can. There might be some hiccups here and there, but for the most part, we feel like we kind of have a good plan going. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right in and get going with our content. As Steve indicated, if you do have any issues or technical issues, it might help to be a little bit patient, or you can send that message through the chat function, and one of our representatives will get in touch with you to help you. And also the recording will be made available after the presentation is over, and we'll get that out to you as well in case you perhaps missed something. So go ahead and I'm going to just start off with some introductions. As I said, my name's Scott. My name's Scott Beach, and I am the mental health specialist for AmeriCorps NCCC. I work with folks who are kind of have applied for service in our programs but haven't yet been accepted, and I help them get medical clearance and make sure they're able to get their specifically their mental health needs taken care of while they're serving, and kind of help answer questions about the program to them. I'm joined with two other NCCC staff today, and they are going to go ahead and introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. My name is Erica Loisel. I am a member support specialist here with NCCC. What that means is that I help to coordinate several of the member benefits that are available while you're serving in the program. I'm also an NCCC alum. I served as a team leader in class 24.
Hi, everyone. My name is Allison Payne. I am a selection and placement assistant at headquarters in DC. My main job is to accept you into the program, do assessments, answer any questions you have, help you with your clearance paperwork and getting that processed, and then getting you ready for service. Great to be here. I hope you get a lot of that out of the webinar today.
Thank you so much, Erica and Allison. They will be online and paying attention to some of the questions that you might be submitting through the Q&A section throughout the presentation, and they will also be pretty instrumental in answering some of those questions when we get to that time. Just to give you a little idea of what we're here for, we want to help make sure that you have an understanding of what AmeriCorps NCCC is about. We're going to try to give you as much information about the programs as we can without being overwhelming. We're going to try to help you understand what it is that you would be committing to, so you have a really accurate, as much of an accurate perspective as you can before making a commitment to serving in the program. We're also going to try to help you really make an understanding between the difference between the FEMA Corps and the traditional Corps, because we find that a lot of applicants tend to get those two things confused. There'll be some information that we present for about 30 to 40 minutes, and then we'll use the remainder of the hour to respond to questions. So feel free to put those questions in the Q&A box kind of whenever they pop in your head, and then we'll try to get to as many of the questions as we can by the end of the presentation. And then we'll also give you an opportunity to follow up with some.
Scott, you got muted, or maybe Scott got disconnected.
Me? Can you hear me now, Jeff?
Yep, we got you again.
Okay. So just kind of a basic idea of what's going on is I will be kind of guiding us through the process to help us better understand what AmeriCorps NCCC is about, so you can make a decision on whether it's right for you. So let's go ahead and put it to the next slide, if you would, Steve. And we're going to start taking a look at just kind of this idea of finding out a little bit more about you. So if we get onto the next slide, we have a poll. If we want to go ahead and put that poll up, we'll take about 30 or 40 seconds to go through the poll. All right, so I see now that my poll is up. Go on. All right, so I apologize, folks. I think I got booted again. As you can see that we have some different sections, some different questions from the poll that we're trying to get an understanding of. We're trying to find out how much thought, how much time you've put into actually thinking and planning of doing AmeriCorps. As you can see, there's a broad range of times that you could, a broad range of areas where you can be in your thinking about whether you want to serve with AmeriCorps or not. Our goal is that after this webinar is over, you'll be able to move from one of maybe that first spot of just having thought about AmeriCorps to maybe thinking a lot or wanting to talk more about it, or maybe even wanting to apply.
Scott, can you see the results? Did the results come on your screen?
Nope, I can't see the results. So if you would share that with me, Jeff, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. The number one answer with the most answers was, I have thought about NCCC, but I'm not sure if it's right for me at 35%. And the next one is, I have thought a lot about NCCC and started the application process, which is at 21%. Followed closely by, I haven't really thought much about AmeriCorps and NCCC, but it seems cool. So those were the top three answers.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we've got kind of a broad, different background. Like I said, we hope that you'll be able to kind of get that whatever information you need from today to help you kind of move forward. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. You might have heard me mention NCCC before a couple times. NCCC stands for the National Civilian Community Corps. Our mission is to strengthen communities and to develop leaders through the team-based national and community service. Next slide, please. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take a look at a video. This video should take about a minute, and it'll just kind of give you an idea of some of the background of what we do at AmeriCorps NCCC and in our different programs. We'll get that going here in a second. If you experience some lag or some connectivity issues, sometimes that helps. If you can get as close to your internet modem as possible, that might help out a little bit. So go ahead, Steve, and start that video for us when you get the chance.
You're a home for a family who's been out in the cold. You're a bottle of clean water in the hands of a thirsty child. You're a sandbag pushing back the flood. You're a traveler, a team member, a builder, a giver. You're a forklift driving, chainsaw wielding hand that reaches out. You're a line in the woods that fires can't cross. You're a garden that feeds a community. Your not help is on the way. Your help is here. Join AmeriCorps NCCC. Be the greater good.
All right, thank you. Moving on. So that video is just like a kind of like a snippet, just kind of a idea of some of the things that you'll be doing as you participate in AmeriCorps. Hopefully you're looking at a slide that says the basics. So you can see with the basics that you just get an idea that what we're looking for AmeriCorps NCCC is looking for individuals who are between the ages of 18 and 24 years old. The way that works is if you are in that age range, on the day that you would start service, then you're qualified to serve. So if your service date was to start on May 27th and your birthday to turn 18 was May 24th, then you'd be good to go. If you turn 25 on May 27th and you start on May 26th, then you are still good to go. So that's kind of an idea of how that works. As you'll note on that screen as well, though, due to some recent adjustments that through the CARES Act that has been done, we have been given permission to extend the age of our basic service. So now for a limited period of time, and we don't have a good sense of exactly how long that is yet, but for a period of time, we're looking for people who are age 18 to 26. So for a little bit of time, that's extended for 2 years. And so that's something to keep in mind. The next part of the basics is that there's two service terms. One is a 10-month service term and one is a 12-month service term. It is full-time service. You're expected to be a part of a full-time work commitment, 40 hours a week, and living full-time in a community situation for that entire 10 to 12 months with a couple breaks here and there. For the traditional Corps, the service period is for 10 months, and for the FEMA Corps, the service period is 12 months. That's pretty important. We'll talk a little bit more about those differences later. As I said, you will be expected to work with a team that entire time and live with the team that entire time. You'll have a team of 8 to 12 individuals other members who are having the same desire and passion to do service as you are. Each team will have a team leader who will and all of those people will live together, work together, and travel together, prepare and eat meals together, and work hard to get things done for America, and that as a team. You will also be assigned to one of 4 campuses. We consider the campuses to be a lot like a home base. You'll be at campus when you first start your service and when you get your first training, and then after you start doing the actual work, you'll come back to the campus several times throughout the year just to kind of get a little bit of a break, get some more training, and do some different experiences to kind of rejuvenate. Looking at the next screen. The next screen kind of shows you where the 4 campuses are located. You'll see a map of the United States, and you can see over in Sacramento, California is where our Pacific region campus is, and you'll see kind of that blue area. Those are all states that are part of the Pacific region. That includes Alaska and Hawaii and those sort of northwestern states. Then sliding over, you'll see the green area where in Aurora, Colorado, which is the southwest region. And the states that it covers, and then there's that peachish-looking color, which is the territory for our North Central campus, which is located in Vinton, Iowa, and then that bottom right-hand campus is in Vicksburg, Mississippi, which is where our southern region is. So you would be assigned to one of those 4 campuses. You get invited to whatever campus has availability, so you could live in Delaware, and you could be assigned to work in the Pacific region of Sacramento. I do want to keep in mind for you that FEMA Corps, when it does its program, it's either at the Pacific region or it's one of the southern regions. So it can kind of go back and forth a little bit, but it would only be, it's not ever at North Central. So the way service would kind of work, it looks a little bit like this. So let's say that you got assigned to work at the Pacific region doing a traditional AmeriCorps program. You would fly out to the campus for your start date. For about 3.5 to 4 weeks, you would do training to prepare you for service. We call that Corps Training Institute. And you might be doing that for, like I said, 3.5 to 4 weeks, and then your team would be assigned to go do a work project, let's say up in Seattle, working with children who need help from an after-school program or something like that. So your team would travel by van from Sacramento, California, all the way up to Seattle, Washington, and you would start doing your program, and you'd be there for about 4 to 8 weeks doing that service and taking care of all the living that goes on up there and helping out with with those programs. And after about 4 to 8 weeks, you'd travel back to the Sacramento campus and have about a week time of what we call transition. And in transition, that's, like I said, that's when you return to campus and get some time to relax a little bit, but also to get retrained. After that transition period is up, then you would go to your next work project, and maybe this time you're traveling over to Nevada or something to do work on the national forest out there. Each time you go to a work site and then come back for a transition period, we call that one round. So at any given time, when you're serving, you can expect to do 4 to 6 rounds. Some of the campuses do the rounds a little bit differently, so it might be 3 to 8, but typically about 4 to 6 is about what you can expect. We'll go ahead and move forward to the next slide. This is a slide that says structure on it, and you can see that there are 4 different types of positions. Within the AmeriCorps NCCC National Corps programs you've heard me talk about. We've got the traditional Corps, we've got the FEMA Corps. Those are both a part of the AmeriCorps NCCC. And underneath both corps, you'll see there's 2 kind of positions. There's the Corps members that we talked a bit about, and the team leader. And you can see they're separated by different color shirts and stuff like that. In the traditional program, you can expect, this is kind of the original program, you can expect to be doing demanding, outdoor, rugged, 10-month service period where you're trying to work to strengthen communities and help build America's generation of who will follow us. You're trying to get an idea that you're going to be doing a lot of hands-on work, working with, you might even end up working in natural disasters. And different things like that, but those are going to be kind of doing more hands-on things, helping out with Habitat for Humanity, working on hiking trails and doing stuff like that, working with children. The FEMA Corps program, as you can see on the right, it says it's an immersive 12-month professional experience designed to build leaders and strengthen our nation's capacity to respond to disasters. So you're going to be spending most of your time doing things like cold calling individuals to get information about disaster-affected areas. You're going to be working to organize and restock supply caches. You're going to be trying to do administrative work by answering telephones and providing people with information, as well as gathering people for information. So it's really more administrative work than it is hands-on, boots to the ground kind of work. So that's something that's really important to know the difference of. Both traditional Corps and FEMA Corps can be assigned to go work in disaster areas. And if you're in the traditional Corps and you're designed to a disaster area, you're going to be doing some more of the actual rebuilding and cleaning up that might happen in a disaster, whereas in FEMA Corps, you're going to be doing the administrative work behind the scenes every time. We'll try to make sure that's really clear as we continue to move on. Also, the other difference that's really important for you to keep in mind is that FEMA Corps is a 2 months longer full-time commitment than the traditional Corps. One of the reasons why that's really cool, though, is that in order to work in the get a job in the federal program, you have to have worked in a position for 12 months. And if you do FEMA Corps, that will meet that qualification of having worked for 12 months in a federal position. So it will allow you to get a job in the federal program without further experience. And in fact, a lot of our FEMA Corps members end up working for FEMA after they're done with their service term. So it's a good idea to keep those differences in mind. What we're going to do next is we've got another poll. So let's go ahead and move forward to the next slide, and then we're going to put up another poll. And Jeff, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and kind of guiding us through that and letting me know when the results are up, since I'm having a hard time seeing them. I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Okay, the poll was launched, but nobody has answered it yet. Maybe there's a slight lag. Here we go. Now they're starting to go.
All right, so give them about 30 seconds.
Okay, a few more seconds because they about 68, 70% have voted and they're still climbing.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like it's tapering. Give it about 5 more seconds, Steve. Okay, so the share is there. Okay, the results are in. 41% for traditional core is an NCCC program, while FEMA core is a FEMA program. And 37% traditional core teams stay within their assigned region.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. That actually just popped up for me so I can see it.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Thanks. So, and you guys did a great job with that poll. I actually did forget to mention that one last one. Those of you that selected that the difference is that traditional core is an NCC program while FEMA core is a FEMA program. That was the correct answer. Traditional core and FEMA core both fall under being an NCCC program. But I also did make it clear that when you are serving with the traditional core, you kind of stay within your region. If you're in FEMA core, then you would go nationwide. You would go to anywhere in the United States where there is a disaster response needed, and also its territories as well. So thank you for participating in your slide, and a good job paying attention, a lot of you on that, and catching that. So awesome. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. Talk just a little bit about some of the benefits of service with AmeriCorps NCCC. So first of all, what I want to let you know is that there are about 500 employers who are committed to hiring individuals who have national service. And so working with AmeriCorps NCCC is not just going to give you the skills and the leadership and experience and team dynamics that a lot of employers are looking for, but we also have these companies that are committed to looking for individuals who have national service. So that's going to give you a kind of something to add to your resume that an employer is going to notice. If you push forward again on the next benefit, another benefit is that you get to travel around the country. You'll get to see communities and cities and countryside that you may never have seen and maybe never get a chance to see again. So that's another huge benefit. Another benefit as we move forward is that you're going to make a difference. You're going to leave a mark on your community through your service that you can see and that people can react to and people will see as well. Moving forward to the next one, another benefit is the Education Award. The Education Award, after you've graduated, successfully completing the program, the Education Award that you receive is around $6,000, and you can apply that for use of student loans or future educational expenses, or like student loans you've acquired already. Some people have finished college when they decide to serve, and they use that money to pay for some of their college loans. The reason why we say approximately $6,000 is that the award changes to match whatever the Pell Grant is for the current financial year. So right now it's actually closer to $6,100 than $6,000. Another benefit is a living allowance. You do get money while you're serving, a stipend to help you pay for some personal items and to get some different kinds of food things. You don't get a ton of money, and you're not going to be living a life of luxury, but keep in mind that most of your expenses are covered, including health expenses, living expenses. You'll get some money for food. A lot of your clothing will be covered, as well as you'll wear AmeriCorps uniforms and stuff like that. So just some things to kind of keep in mind about the benefits. Looking at the next slide, we'll take a little bit of look at breaking down some more of the type of work you can expect to do. So again, we're talking about the traditional core, or that core that does the hands-on work. You might be working with, as we said, natural or other disasters, and you might be actually filling sandbags for local community services to help prevent a flood. You could be doing infrastructure improvement, where you're building ramps or footbridges in national forests or across different areas like that. Doing urban or rural development where you're helping out with like Habitat for Humanity to build low-income housing. You might be working on environmental stewardship and conservation and helping repair or create hiking trails in our national parks across America. And we also do energy conservation programs where you can do some research and help educate communities on sustainable and best energy use practices. So again, those are a lot of those things are very hands-on. You would get an opportunity to do a bunch of different projects. You're not going to do the same project for your entire 10 months that you're doing traditional Corps. And like you said, like we said before, you'll be going to different areas as well as doing different types of jobs. Each time you do a transition, you'll be trained to do the kind of job that you will be doing on your next spike. So we really work hard to give you the opportunities and the tools that you need to be successful. Moving forward to the next slide, one of the things that we like to say is that the traditional projects tend to be outdoor. Now, that's not to say they are 100% outdoor, but they typically are. And then the FEMA projects tend to be indoor. And again, not 100% of the time is that the case, but typically, since FEMA is doing more administrative behind-the-scenes work, they're in places where they can do that work as efficiently as possible with all the communications equipment, telephones, computers, and stuff that they need to be able to do that. So both Corps can end up doing indoor or outdoor work, but traditional Corps tends to be outdoor and FEMA tends to be indoor. We'll move forward to the next slide and take a look more closely at some of the types of work that you can be expected to do while you're serving with FEMA Corps. The 5 key focus areas are disaster survivor assistance, individual assistance, logistics, planning, and public assistance. So in disaster survivor assistance, you might be helping public people in public complete paperwork that need to be able to file for relief assistance. You might be working with nonprofit governments to help coordinate services. So if in kind of today's situation where we're all trying to figure out how to respond to the social distancing and the coronavirus as it impacts our nation, one of the things that we're looking at our teams doing is working on contact tracing and different things like that. So working with different government programs to be able to do some assistance, things like that. You'll also be doing logistic kinds of things where you're providing basic needs for survivors after a disaster, inventorying, making sure supplies are getting to where they need to go, and managing all that stuff. The planning and the geographic information system, you might be doing research and writing to create disaster response plans. And for public assistance, you're collecting information and assessing needs. So if you're an individual who likes to write or who likes to do different kinds of office work and do research and things like that, FEMA Corps might be a kind of the program that you want to consider doing, because you're going to get a lot of that professional administrative experience. Let's move forward to the next slide, which is just said so we can do one more to where it says FEMA Corps continued. And again, you're going to get specific training to do the projects that FEMA needs you to do. So you'll get you'll get AmeriCorps training, but then you'll also get trained by FEMA to do stuff. You're going to be doing administrative projects, working in emergency management, typically in an office setting, traveling throughout the country. A lot of just kind of restating some of the things that we've talked about before, with that big focus on professional development. Let's move to the next slide. So one of the things that we pride ourselves on is this concept that you're going to accomplish more as a team than you could ever do on your own. And so we've talked about just the different projects. And if you sat there and tried to think about doing all those things yourself, even one of those things like trying to build a house for Habitat for Humanity or trying to figure out how to get supplies to people who are experiencing a disaster, that can be kind of overwhelming. But when we get together and you work with your team, 8 to 12 like-minded individuals who want to get work done, in addition to working with our partners who help set up these programs, it's pretty amazing what you can accomplish. So we've talked a little bit about the differences between the traditional Corps and the FEMA Corps and some of the overlap and similarities of service in general. We want to sort of shift gears now and kind of take a look at idea give you an idea of what specifically you can expect. And so we'll move forward to the next slide, and you'll kind of see this timeline of events. So to start off with, you see that first piece says selection and placement, and you will, that's kind of the application process. Some of you might have already started your application process. If you're interested in doing that, you can go to myamericorps.gov and start that process. And you'll have to do your medical and legal clearances and get some paperwork in, and then we'll kind of start getting you prepared and ready to start service. Once you've been invited to a campus and once you get your medical and legal clearance, then you will be approved for service, and you will arrive. You'll travel from your hometown to whatever campus you've been selected for on the start date, and you will start your training. When you arrive on campus, you'll be greeted by the staff that are there and the team leaders, and they'll just try to help you get settled in, and they'll help you throughout the NCCC year. Next slide, please. We do want you to be aware that you will get a urine drug screen when you arrive on campus. Just keep in mind that while there are a lot of different states who are at different phases of deregulating some substances like marijuana, when you serve with AmeriCorps NCCC, you will be considered a federal employee, so federal law will apply here, and so it will be illegal for you to consume and use marijuana. That's something to keep in mind, because if you arrive on campus, you want to make sure that you are free of any drugs in your system. There will also be an opportunity that you will be randomly screened throughout your service term. So we just want to make sure you're aware of that. I mentioned before about the Corps Training Institute. It's about 3.5 weeks of training that trains you on what it means to be an AmeriCorps member. It teaches you about disaster relief, diversity, teamwork skills, and then also the specific skills that you're going to need to do the job. Also, while you're on campus, you're going to get all your gear, and NCCC will fully equip you with all the things that you need for service. Uniforms, boots, tools, all that stuff is stuff that you don't have to worry about. Next slide, please. We also, it's also very important for us to make sure that our Corps members are taking care of themselves and are as physically fit and healthy and ready to go do the work that needs to be done. So we actually pride ourselves on making physical conditioning a part of the work that you do, and just part of helping make your service to be more successful, because the better in shape you are, the better you're going to feel to be able to do all the work that is expected of you to do. So we make that a part of the team training as well. Next slide, it talks about the team experience. So keep in mind, something to think about is, like we said, you're going to be working, you'll be assigned to a team of 8 to 12 people with a team leader, and those are the people that you're going to be with pretty much for the rest of the 10 or 12 months. You guys will live together. On campus, the living situation is separated for males and females, but once you get on actual service projects, the sleeping arrangements are integrated. So your team will be sleeping kind of wherever you guys can find a space to sleep. You plan meals together with your team, and you prepare those meals together, shop for food and stuff, and all that stuff is done as part of the team experience. And so there's a really heavy emphasis on being around those people and learning how to live with them and support them as they support you. Your team will be transported primarily by ground to go to different work sites. We also call those spikes or projects. And so it's a 15-passenger van that's loaded up with your whole team and all your gear. So sometimes those trips can be pretty lengthy. So that's more of a part of the team experience of just getting used to being around each other in close spaces for a long period of time. We talked a little bit about the project rounds and the transitions. Project rounds is where you actually go out to serve for 4 to 8 weeks, and then come back for a week of transition. And that's one round. And then once that's done, you get out and you start going to another spike to do more work. Next slide. As we said before, both the traditional and the FEMA Corps teams can be deployed to disasters at any time. And serving on disasters can mean longer hours, but we also prioritize your safety and try to make sure that every year you guys are safe in doing the work that you're doing and providing the best support that you can for others. Keep in mind, again, that your basic expenses will be covered. You will get a living allowance of approximately $200 every 2 weeks before taxes. You'll also get a daily allowance for food that sounds pretty meager, but when you put it together with your whole team, it's generally enough to feed your whole team. And what Corps members find is that they really learn what it is that they can live without when they're serving with AmeriCorps, and that is something that prepares them for the future and helps really strengthen their skills, their adult skills, and their ability to do what needs to be done and really focus on what's really important in their life. Now, after you do all your different cycles, your different rounds of service, your final week of transition is when you prepare for closure and graduation. So you'll have a week where you get to kind of close up and debrief and be with your family and friends and invite them for a closing ceremony and do lots of cool stuff like that. Moving forward to the next slide. Again, there's another information about the education award that we mentioned, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about that. One thing you might want to be aware of is that some colleges will match your AmeriCorps Education Award, so I would inquire with your financial aid department about that and see if that's something that they do. And after that, you are finished and you become an AmeriCorps alumni. Part of the group of people who have kind of been there and done that like you have, and that gives you opportunities to stay connected with AmeriCorps, and it gives you opportunities to tell other people about the experience that you had and really kind of share what meaning AmeriCorps brought to you and your situation. Next slide, please. So this slide, we're getting close to the end of our slides. This next slide is just kind of some questions that you can ask yourself if you're still trying to decide if AmeriCorps is the right thing for you. You can take a look at those questions and kind of think about them on your own. You know, am I in the right age range? And remember, it's now 18 to 26, not 18 to 24. Also, make sure, I don't think I pointed out before, that if you're a team leader, there is no upper age limit. So if you were a team leader, you could be 18, you could be 27, you could be 45, you could be 75. Not a lot of 75-year-olds want to be a team leader for a group of 18 to 24-year-olds, so I don't think you have to worry about that. Most everyone's still kind of in their 20s, but you never know. Are you willing to travel away from your hometown? Those are the kinds of things to ask yourself if you're still kind of having some questions about whether you want to serve or not. And we're going to go through the next slide. And the next slide is just kind of basically about just reminding you that when you work with AmeriCorps, you're going to be serving your country where it's needed most. And that's a pretty important thing to hang your hat on and be proud of. We do have one more poll that we'd like to put up. Steve, if you'll go ahead and do that. And Jeff, if you wouldn't mind letting me know how it goes.
Certainly.
Thank you.
About 70% have voted. A lot of them are really kicking in. So give it probably a few more seconds. We'll probably get 100% on this one.
Awesome.
I said that and it's slowing down now. Probably give it about 5 more seconds. We got 82% voted. Okay, Steve. And a number one answer was all of the above at 64%.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, that was just kind of a trick question anyway, so we don't need to break that down a whole lot. But yeah, I'm glad to see that there are so many awesome things that you guys are recognizing as you think about AmeriCorps. We'll go to the next slide. So if you want to take that excitement and go ahead and apply, right there's the information on how to do it. Again, like going to the AmeriCorps.gov/NCCC. Keep in mind that if you're interested in serving with FEMA, FEMA does not have a fall class. The next FEMA class is going to start in the winter, but the application period will open for that on August 1st. So you've got a couple months before you're going to be able to apply to FEMA Corps. We are currently in the process of accepting applications for the fall traditional Corps. So you can go to AmeriCorps.gov NCCC and put on your profile and then apply to positions for the fall. But there will only be traditional Corps positions available. The other thing that you'll see on that slide too is that we do have a webinar coming up in 2 weeks and then again in 4 weeks. The information on those webinars will be more about the application process and how do you put in an application and what kinds of things we're looking for in an application. So if you're interested in that, feel free to join, and we'd love to have you. So make sure you've got all of that information. We're going to go ahead for about the next 15 or so minutes and try to take a look at some of these questions. I'm going to turn it over to Erica. And Erica, I'll just let you know that I can't see any of the questions, so I am happy to answer them. If you could kind of guide us on all that, that'd be great.
Sure, Scott. So I will take a few questions regarding just some things that I keep seeing. I've seen some questions regarding online schools and participation in colleges, and I just want to reiterate that NCCC is considered a full-time program, so unfortunately you're not able to work, in other types of employment or take classes as well. And excuse me, I'm kind of toggling between two screens so I can see as many questions as I can at once, so please bear with me. I see another question that was upvoted a few times regarding breaks. This question says, can you go home for Christmas? And yes, while you're serving in the program, you are allotted 3 personal days. And a lot of times, I believe it's for the summer group, there's a mid-year break that often falls around that time as well. So for every program, there is a week-long break where you can either stay on campus if you like to, or you can travel, or you can go home. So how you use that time is up to you. But yes, there are breaks, and oftentimes these do fall along the winter holidays.
Can I just add one real quick comment to that, Erica, too?
Of course, Scott.
Thank you. It's important to know, too, that if you do choose to travel during those breaks, that would be at your own expense. AmeriCorps will pay for you to arrive on campus for day 1 of your service, and they'll pay for you to go back home on your last day of service. But any other personal travel, and then, of course, you pay for your team to travel from site to site. But any other travel that you do for personal reasons in between those 2 periods would be at your own expense.
Yes, that is very true. Let me see what else that might be. I see some questions regarding our upper age limit. So like Scott said, if you there is no upper age limit for team leaders. I see some people might be looking to serve, but they might be nearing the top of that age range. I just want to say there is no upper age limit. So if you are 30 or something, you're certainly if you're interested in NCCC, you're able to apply and serve as a team leader. I'd also encourage you to visit our website, nationalservice.gov, for any other AmeriCorps programs that you might be interested in as well. Some people also asked for shorter term programs, so that will be a place for you to look as well. Look on our website, and there are some programs there for you. I believe you're able to filter down to a shorter time frame of service, and then that can get you some different results. I'm seeing a lot of questions on the application process, some things regarding motivational statements, timelines, dates. So I'll pass it off to Allison to see if she can provide some answers to those.
Allison, if you're talking and we can't hear you, you might be on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Sorry about that. So I was able to get on and start answering some of the questions in the Q&A box, but I can answer some more for people now. So formally submitting an application to any AmeriCorps program is a multi-step process. So the first step is to create a My AmeriCorps profile account. The second step is to create an application on your profile. And then third is to submit your application to a listing. So that last step is very important. So just completing an application doesn't mean that we're going to see it. So you need to remember to submit it to the listing or listings of your choice. So the coolest thing about, I think, AmeriCorps NCCC is that there's no prior experience or skills required in order to apply. So we have applicants apply from all over the United States. They're 18 to 24, now 26. They come from all different backgrounds. They have a multitude of different skills and experiences under their belt, and they're really there to share. So, on the application, you're not required to have any, there's nothing required that you need to have done before this. You could be right out of high school if you're 18 by the time the program starts, or you could have finished college. You could be taking a gap year from college, anything like that. So what we look for in an application is just completeness and thoroughness. Fill out all the sections. Motivational statement is important. We really want to hear from you what drew you to AmeriCorps NCCC, what you're going to offer, what you're looking forward to, and then of course references is a huge part of the application as well. So you need 2 references. One must be professional in nature, so that is job supervisor, teacher, academic advisor, coach, clergy, anyone with a leadership or supervisory role above you. And so they can both be professional, that's great, but if you can't, having one personal reference, a coworker, some kind of other mentor or friend is fine, but one definitely does need to be professional. So I also wanted to touch on the current coronavirus situation, since there were a lot of questions about that. So the health and safety of our members is, of course, our top priority. So we're responding the best way we can to the challenges that COVID-19 is presenting us with. So we're monitoring and following local, state, and federal guidance. We have created a COVID-19 FAQ page that you can find at nationalservice.gov/coronavirus. Our program leadership is doing quite a bit of modeling and research into the best ways to bring our summer and fall classes into service. So we're looking into acquiring personal protective equipment, making sure lodging is safe, exploring some COVID-19 related projects. So the only thing, since it is a changing situation, the thing we can tell you now is that we're planning to have our upcoming classes as scheduled, and if there are any changes, then of course you will be notified. So it is a crazy situation that we're in, and we're doing our best to get our members to campus and of course keep them safe. So I
also, can I piggyback on that real quick too?
Sure.
We had talked about thank you. We had talked about providing that link through the chat function, just so you can see it, the nationalservice.gov /coronavirus. If Erica, if you can try to put that on, that'd be great. For those of you who have already put in an application or will be shortly, anybody who's put in an application will be updated if there's any change to scheduling related to the coronavirus and ways we're trying to respond to it. If you have attended this webinar and you're still trying to decide if you want to serve or not, we encourage you to check that website because that's where you will be notified if there has been a change to any kind of timing or anything like that. But if you put in your application, once your application is, then you will be notified directly by email. If you haven't done that, then you'll have to make sure you're keeping yourself up to date by checking out the fact page. The other thing to know about that fact page is that that provides information for our whole AmeriCorps program. So our AmeriCorps program is run by what we call the Corporation for National and Community Service, and that's a federally run program that oversees a bunch of different projects like NCCC. And so you'll be directed to the web page that's responding to the coronavirus for all kinds of AmeriCorps programs, and you'll want to find the fact that's specifically related to NCCC amongst all those other ones. That's all I've got for that. Thanks.
Okay. If there's time, I'll touch on one more question I saw pop up quite frequently. Was, can you choose which campus you go to? And I think Scott did mention it, but I will reiterate that you are not able to choose which campus that you're assigned to. Like he said, FEMA generally works in the Pacific and Southern regions. Traditional does work at all the campuses, but it will depend on which term. So for example, in the fall, only Pacific and Southwest host traditional groups. And then one more question, I did think I answered it in the Q&A, was about the stipend or living allowance. So, like Scott said, everything is pretty much provided for you and arranged for you, including transportation to and from campus at the beginning and end. So Corps members and team leaders do receive a stipend as well for the duration of their service term. Corps members' living allowance totals around $4,000, roughly $180 every 2 weeks before taxes. And for team leaders, approximately $12,000, roughly $500 every 2 weeks before taxes. So stipends are dispersed on a biweekly basis through direct deposit. And there were some questions about food too. So your team leader generally handles the team's food budget. So there's a lot of group discussions about shopping, food shopping, meal prep and planning. It's a modest budget. It's enough, definitely. But if, we do provide the stipend for any extras or any treats that you may want as well. I believe I covered most of them. Does anyone else have anything?
I have a couple more that I saw. Thanks, Allison. So I saw a couple questions about driving. So when you are assigned, you're at a campus and you're starting, you and your team will be assigned a 15-passenger van. So all team leaders are expected to be drivers. However, not all Corps members are expected to be drivers. So if you feel comfortable, you can sign up as a driver and then you'll undergo some training, and then you will get the training to drive the van, and then you can drive the van throughout your service year. But team leaders are expected to be drivers. And then there were also some questions about the education award. So like Scott mentioned, it is equivalent to the Pell Grant for that year, so it does change. Right now it's $6,195. And there were some questions regarding if it could be used all at once or if you could use it in chunks. And you can use it in chunks if you choose. They just have to be at qualified Title IV institutions. So Just keep that in mind, but you're able to designate the amount. However, you're not able to receive a lump sum of money. So if you are not interested in going to, a four-year university or community college, or, any type of program that is a Title IV program, you would not be able to receive any equivalent of in cash. I believe that's the other questions. I think we've covered quite a lot. So does anyone else have anything?
Well, that sounds great, Erica. We're kind of right at time, so it might be a good transition time to end the webinar. So thank you so much to Erica and Allison for helping out field those questions. Thank you to everyone that's attended today. Thank you so much to Jeff and Steve for helping us get through this technically challenging webinar. You guys have been awesome. Just as a reminder, and see if you can kind of move forward to the next slide, and it's just kind of a final wrap-up slide. You'll see on this final slide our contact information. You can get more information by following through with any of these ways to contact us. When you close out of the webinar or leave the webinar, you will be given a link to a survey. We would really appreciate your feedback so that we can continue to help make this webinar more relevant and more helpful in the future, and more useful for the use. So your thoughts and feedback will be tremendously helpful. Also, if you do have any specific feedback or specific questions that you wanted to ask but didn't get a chance to, or it didn't get answered, or you would like more information about the response, you can request to have one of us follow up with you and reach out to you by your preferred method of communication. And you'll get a chance to do that through the feedback survey. So just make sure you do that survey that will come at the end, and someone will reach out to you in the next day or two. And again, we will be sharing a recording of this webinar through email and on our website, so feel free to share it with other people that you know that might be interested in AmeriCorps. And aside from that, on behalf of Jeff, Steve, Erica, and Allison, and myself, we want to thank you so much for attending today and hope that you have a fantastic afternoon. Take care.